TG Geeks, episode 259, February 3rd, 2020. Snow and stars in southern Arizona. Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery, sci-fi, comics, film, horror genre. You name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane, and we're coming to you from TG Squared Studios in lovely Phoenix, Arizona, where it's beginning to finally warm up here a little bit.
Funny you should say that. And I'm Ben Raggington, coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona, where it is going to get cold again because there is actually...
Oh, you had to say that.
I'm not joking. We're going to be dipping into the low 20s.
Yeah.
Or high 20s, I'm sorry. And in some of the outlying areas, they're actually calling for snow.
Yikes. I don't want that. Let's get on with this show.
Prepare for hyperdrive.
Meanwhile, in the Hall of Episodes, the Two Gay Geeks are discussing this.
Well, in this episode, this is really kind of going to be a nerdy, geeky show. And what do you call a group of geeks together?
We call it a geekle.
A geekle.
I think that's the term.
A geekle of geeks.
That's the term you coined yesterday.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I'm saying. We are talking to David Lee Summers, who is a scientist. He's the astronomy associate, one of the astronomy associates at Kitt Peak National Observatory, and he works on two of the telescopes down there. And we visited him the day after Thanksgiving, and it was snowing and
it was freezing cold. But we were the only ones there, which was nice.
It was really kind of nice. So we are really excited about this episode. We're going to have our birthday shout-outs, our featured Not a Podcast of the Week, and everybody's favorite feedback. And we have shout-outs. In our second segment, we're going to talk very briefly, depending on the time, about Porgy and Bess that we saw yesterday at the Live in HD, and then their weekly recap and some more shout-outs. So let's just get on with this interview. And we are coming again to you from the Visitor Center at Kitt Peak National Observatory on the top of the mountain. And it is snowing today.
It's cold
and
outside.
The wind is blowing. And we are the only people up here. Only because we had already made an appointment. So we slipped and slid all the way up to the top to talk with David Lee Summers, scientist/author.
And we had to talk to him because there was not enough time to cover everything that we wanted to talk about last time we saw you at CocoCon. Because that conversation was so awesome, and we ran out of time, and we had to have more.
And I had a great time talking to you during that conversation. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah. So for those that haven't listened to that other interview, tell us a little bit about your history and your education and how you came to Kitt Peak and what it is that you do here.
So my background is I'm a professional astronomer. I got my degree from New Mexico Tech in Socorro, New Mexico. Basically, they are famous as being the university right by the VLA, the Very Large Array Radio Telescope. And in fact, I was lucky enough during my senior year of college to observe with the VLA. I had the job of observing clouds with the VLA.
Oh, hooray.
Terrestrial clouds. But it was because what we were doing was we were doing a site survey for another telescope. This was what we called at the time the millimeter array. And what we were trying to do was find out how well clouds over long spaces of area could be measured and how much that affected radio signals at millimeter wavelength.
Oh, wow.
And so what we were doing was we were testing these devices. This all ended up being work that went into the telescope that's now the ALMA array down in Chile.
Right.
So
oh, wow.
I got to have my hands in very early in that development of that telescope. So, of course, I went on to graduate school, went to work for a fellow named Sterling Colgate, who was one of the preeminent theoreticians in supernova theory, and then ended up getting actually hired out of graduate school to come here to Kitt Peak back in the 90s.
Amazing.
And that happened because one of my bosses at the VLA was talking to the person who was the site manager up here at Kitt Peak at the time, and the site manager was asking for people who would be really good with the telescopes, and I was recommended.
Wow.
So I came here. I was here for 3 years, ended up taking another job as an engineer over at an observatory in New Mexico. But back in 2008, I was called up more or less out of the blue and said, was I interested in coming back here?
Oh,
and
wow.
at that point in my life, my kids were old enough that I decided
you didn't have to be home.
I didn't have to be home all the time, and I liked working up here, so I came back, and I've been here for 12 years since then.
Wow.
And pretty much my job up here at Kitt Peak is I'm the guy who makes sure that scientists get the data that they want to get from the telescopes.
Right.
I make sure the telescope is pointed where it needs to be. I'm the first line of defense if something breaks on the telescope. I'm the one I'm the technical support who's sitting right there. A lot of our observers actually don't come to the telescopes anymore. There's a mix of things for that, but part of it is that with the internet, a lot of observers will sit at their home institution at a computer. My observer last night was doing that. So she's sitting in Indiana,
wow,
observing galaxies with a telescope at Kitt Peak. So my job is to be the person here who's actually making sure it's safe to open the telescope.
Right.
And of course, as you see by the conditions today, that becomes
not so.
Exactly. There are times when we just say it's not safe to open the telescope.
Right.
So my job is a lot of health and safety of the equipment, keeping it operational. And, we are involved in some level of, first cuts, making sure, are we getting the kind of data through the telescope we're expecting to get? Are we getting the signals from the stars that we expect? We take a first look at the spectrum. Does that actually look like the right kind of star? Did we point at the star we thought we were going to get?
Right.
So, we get a lot of that very first feedback. Are we seeing the thing we expect to see? And, I'm also the person that's going to be called up if someone has what they call a target of opportunity observation. So things like supernovae, don't call us up and set on a calendar.
Well, why not?
So exactly.
Let me look at my calendar. Oh,
supernova is going to go off today.
Yeah.
So we'll get called, and I like to one of the stories I tell here at Kitt Peak back in the 90s, one of the people who had a target of opportunity program was an astronomer named Saul Perlmutter, who was observing supernovae, because supernovae are a type of standard candle that you look at to see how far away a galaxy is from you, because if you know where it is in the brightness profile of that star, you know how far away that star is from you.
Wow.
You can make that ratio to do that. And
I learn something from you every time we talk to you. No, that's amazing.
So he started looking at these, and he was trying to answer the question that I had back in my that everyone pretty much was given in their graduate school days: is the universe contracting, or is it all going to just expand forever at the same constant rate? Because we know from Newton's laws that when you set something in motion,
it tends to remain in motion.
It tends to remain in motion until something slows it down. So he was observing these supernovae, and what he found was that they were further away than he expected.
Wow.
That was the answer no one expected.
Right.
And what that tells us is that the universe is accelerating.
Right.
And so that means something is energizing the universe, and it's and so it's making the universe move faster with time. So what's making it do that? That's one of the projects I'm involved in right now. And that's one of the things we looked at up here on the mountain today is DESI, the Dark Energy Spectrographic Instrument, which is to go essentially an experiment to see if those results are what we think they are.
So that's what it's... That was the new equipment you showed us today because, listeners, we got a behind-the-scenes tour, and boy, was it awesome. But that was the new equipment. It was to measure dark energy?
Exactly. So it's very specifically, it's to measure the distance to galaxies using a method that's not supernovae. Because it could be... there are several possible answers to why the universe could appear to be expanding faster than it is. It could be maybe supernovae in the early universe behave differently than supernovae today. Okay, well, how do you know that? We don't really have a way to know that. It could be maybe we've got this whole thing called the Hubble constant wrong. That's the constant that sort of says how fast the universe is expanding. Maybe it's not a constant. Maybe it's a function.
Right.
So you need to be able to test this whole thing independently.
The Hubble function.
And you need exactly. And you need a way to do it, statistically, because like I say, the supernovae don't call you up and say, I'm going to explode tomorrow. Come and observe me. Right. You need a way to be able to see sort of the entire universe. So the whole point of DESI is to basically make a three-dimensional map of the entire northern sky.
Right. And this was mounted on the original 4-meter telescope.
This is on the Mile 4-meter telescope, which is our biggest telescope up on the mountain, and not quite the oldest, but it does go back to 1970.
Right. And it was refitted with the...
So the whole... So it would be what we call the prime focus. So the prime focus, if for any listeners that are familiar with pictures of observers sitting in a space capsule-like top end of a telescope, that's what the prime focus is. It's in a small telescope, it's where the secondary mirror would be. So light comes down, hits the big mirror. That's what we call the 4-meter mirror, reflects up to the top end of the telescope. That can either have a mirror that shines light to an instrument, or in this case, that's where the instrument itself is. And at that point in the telescope, there are 5,000 fibers that then feed 10 spectrographs several floors below that, where the data is all basically the light from every object that's seen in 5,000 fibers. And this is this really dense pattern on the sky. And you can see it if you go to noao.edu, although that website may be changing because we have changed our name from the National Optical Astronomy Observatory to NSF's Optical Infrared Astronomy Laboratory.
Oh dear, more letters. I have to remember that.
We're still trying to figure out what the acronym for that one is. And
PQRZ.
Some people have suggested Narwhal, which I think is pretty cool. I like the Noir Astronomy Lab.
There we go.
Where we
Noir
all have
Astronomy Lab.
Yes, where we all have fedoras and inner monologues. Assigned our bottle of whiskey.
Exactly.
In the cabinet, but
and that was a fascinating to look at that instrument and look at the whole telescope itself. It was like, oh my gosh,
Oh yes, this telescope is one of the grand old telescopes on the mountain. It's the thing is built like a battleship.
Oh, and truly.
And part of the reason that we put this great new instrument on to do this experiment on this telescope is you need a telescope that's robust enough to essentially carry a school bus worth of weight around.
Right.
And that's what this new instrument is like. It's with a new corrector optics and the fibers in there. And all of these fibers, we didn't really talk about it when we were up there, but they're all on little robot positioners to put them precisely on the positions of the targets. Right. So you have all of this machinery doing all of that, the cooling to keep that from distorting your image quality as light comes through the telescope, and all of that up there. So all of that ends up weighing. Like I say, it's about like carrying a school bus around on a telescope.
It's amazing, yeah. And so that one is you're still testing and doing things.
We're still testing. We're doing what we call commissioning, and that should go through pretty much the end of the year. And then our 5-year mission, cue the Star Trek music, starts where we'll start mapping the whole northern sky with DESI.
That is amazing.
One of the really exciting parts of this for me is that all of this data will be available in a database that scientists all over the world, even people not directly connected with the DESI project, can go log in and download this data and use it for their own scientific projects.
Do their own analysis on it.
So it's a little like, sending a scientist out into the forest and just see everything you can see and record it and
it's open source and astronomy.
Open source it, exactly.
I was going to say it sounds like an open buffet, actually.
That too. And I have a personal connection with open source astronomy like this, in that just as an example of something that you don't expect, from a data set like this, the data from the Kepler mission, which is the space telescope that's been finding planets all around other stars in the galaxy, that is all open source data too. Anyone can download that data and look at it. My daughter, who is a student at Tulane University, her capstone project in computer science was to figure out, could she teach her laptop to identify exoplanets?
Ooh. Oh, wow.
And so she checked out the Kepler data set, real exoplanet data, and used that as her teaching mechanism to teach her computer to start finding exoplanets.
So she's going into the family business, so to speak.
She ended up going into medical software, but still, it was exciting that she got to actually work with data that we do, and that segues really into the other instrument we're doing, which is also a fiber-fed spectrograph, which is supporting. Kepler is no longer functioning, but there's still lots of stars to be followed up with in the Kepler data. Not every planet that Kepler is still going to be discovering planets for years to come.
Right.
And we have a new mission called Tess, the Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite, that's looking at all the nearby stars. These are all the ones where, hopefully when we build our starship, we'll be going to at some point, and looking for planets around those. And now, of course, a telescope like Kepler or Tess can see a planet around a star. Well, that's basically the initial discovery, but we don't know for sure that it's there until another telescope is independently looked at it.
Right, and that's
what NUID, the instrument.
I thought it was Druid. No, it's no. You talked about going out in the forest.
Well, and actually it's one of those acronyms that's an acronym of acronyms. I don't even remember everything that it stands for, but basically the word is the Tohono O'odham word for seeing.
Wow,
interesting.
That is so cool.
That's where that word comes from.
Well, and we are on the
land of the Tohono O'odham up here, and we. So the whole idea is this instrument will be following up stars that are suspected to have exoplanets around them, and will be devoted to discovering exoplanets around other stars.
I know that there was it was almost like the big scientific craze, reading scientific journals and seeing news items about new exoplanets that have been found. What are some of the latest things that that you're aware of that maybe our listeners might find interesting?
Well, actually, the one that I found really fascinating is it was, I believe it was Hubble that did the data, and we actually have found an exoplanet with water in the atmosphere.
Wow.
Where they were able to actually get it at that magic point where you can see sunlight going through the atmosphere of the planet, and you could actually get water vapor in it. That's kind of one of the things we're really trying to do with these is find planets that might have life on them.
The water's the holy grail.
Water is
for
the
life.
holy grail,
right?
And so we're finding. Of course, there's all kinds of really exciting exoplanets, things that we didn't even expect to find back in my days in grad school. Things like Jupiter-sized planets going, whipping around stars with orbital periods of like hours. We would have thought those things would have evaporated, and here they are in stable orbits.
Yeah, there was something recently about. It was a larger planet that was closer into a star, and it's like that was. I don't remember what it was. I glanced through the article, but that was fascinating.
And of course, we find a lot of Jupiters and we find a lot of Neptunes, and a lot of the things we found are close into stars at this point. We're sort of just starting to get to where we're finding the Earth-sized planets, right? Kind of in orbits around stars that are like the Earth. One of the problems we have with a lot of the so-called habitable zone planets we have right now is that they're around red dwarf stars, and so they have to be in much closer to the star, and so a lot of those are phase-locked planets, so you're probably not going to find life that we recognize on those.
No Goldilocks zone there.
But
just
the
a little too warm.
And we talk about terrestrial worlds. The thing to not forget is Jupiter-sized planets and Neptune-sized planets have moons around them. You talk about moons like Titan and Ganymede in our solar system. They're a little far out to have life unless it's under the ice or something like that on these places. But you get something like that in a habitable zone of a star.
Yeah.
Those moons could be habitable.
Right,
moons.
and where the planet may not.
Where the planet might be a big gas giant.
Right.
And you never know. There might be some kind of exotic life in the clouds of a planet like that too.
But the studies of exoplanets, and this is just a curious thought that came to me. I mean, obviously the solar system we're most familiar with is our own. Using that as a model, is the structure of our solar system when you have the smaller planets that are closer in, like for a standard yellow sun, and then you start going for the big super planets. Is that a standard solar model or solar system model that in the study?
I think not as much. That was sort of the model people assumed. We assumed our solar system kind of formed that way because it kind of had to. But it turns out we see all different kinds of solar systems out there. We see giant planets close to stars. We see in fact, there's one whole class of planets we don't even have in our solar system that's out there that we found.
Really?
And these are what we call, we sometimes hear them described as supergiants, but maybe a more accurate word is water worlds. Forget Kevin Costner here, but these are basically. So we think about Earth as a water world. Well, Earth really isn't a water world. It's a rocky world with a thin veneer of water on the surface. Right. These are actually whole planets with the density of water.
Wow.
So now is it really water all the way through? That's a good question. But you're still talking. They're not rocks, but they're not gas. They're actually liquid. Liquid bodies.
They're in that zone where
exactly, and if they are water, though, that could be really
fascinating.
Really fascinating.
Well, that's a whole fascinating concept. The idea of something that's all liquid to be able to have its own gravity and sustain its form is something that it's almost inconceivable.
But then again, we have Jupiter, which is all gas.
Right.
And
that's true.
That's true. Holds its whole, of course, in the core, it's very dense, and the gas doesn't look like gas that we know. It looks like probably looks like a solid body in the very, very center of it. These worlds are probably like that, but you're talking very big worlds that are much more liquid. They're between the size of the terrestrial planets in our solar system and what we call the ice giants. Again, we're not talking Nordic mythology here, but
like Neptune.
Neptune is basically an ice giant. So.
Well, that's other mythology.
Exactly.
So we also toured the 3.5 meter telescope. That one is called what?
That's called the WIN. That's
the WIN, right?
Which is an acronym for the original founders of the original consortium that built the telescope, which is University of Wisconsin, Indiana University, Yale, and then NOAO, which is now NSF's OIR astronomical laboratory, and So WIN is the 3.5 meter. That telescope was built in the 90s, and that is the telescope that the NEWID spectrograph that's going to be looking for exoplanets is on.
That one was just refitted also with a new instrument.
And NEWID is the instrument that was just
and
added
that's
to
a
that.
single fiber.
And that's a single fiber, and the idea is we point that at stars that are suspected to have exoplanets. And the whole idea is that's a very, very sensitive spectrograph. In fact, we couldn't look at it today, but the thing is, it looks like it's built in a sarcophagus to me. It's a big metal, climate-controlled. You know, we looked at a bench spectrograph. Now imagine that all sealed in this very careful, climate-controlled environment that's on shock absorbers, so it doesn't feel ground vibration or anything. The whole idea is that anything it sees is coming from the star, not from the instrumentation. And we talk about it like we're trying to see motions in the star that are the equivalent of like trying to measure a star moving at the speed of like a Gila monster.
Right.
Across all that distance.
And that telescope had multiple instruments that could be used on it, correct?
Right. And one of the beauties of the WIN telescope is it's got what we call a rotating tertiary mirror. So the primary mirror is the big mirror. When we talk, say, 4 meters or 3.5 meters, that's the primary mirror. That's the big collecting optics. The light goes up to a secondary mirror, which then directs it usually to instrumentation. Tertiary is the third mirror. And that mirror can be turned and can direct it to different instruments doing different things. We have an optical imager on there, kind of like the camera in your cell phone, but much bigger. In this case, it's
I want one of those.
1 degree of the sky, which 1 degree of the sky is about 4 times the size of the full moon on the sky, but high resolution, which means you can see things at really fine detail. Over large amounts of the sky at one time. And we have an instrument on there that's a fiber-fed spectrograph, not unlike the DESI spectrograph at the 4 meter that observers can use to study details of galaxies. So like you can imagine you're looking at a spiral galaxy from the top, and you can look at the difference between what's going on with the chemistry in the center of that galaxy compared to what's going on out in the spiral arms, for instance.
Right. And the other fascinating piece, we saw the backside of that telescope with all
the actuators,
the levelers and all of that. Do you want to talk about that for just a moment?
And definitely, one of the things that made the WIN telescope unique when it started in the 1990s is it's a telescope that is made with a thin mirror. We can actually deform that mirror with actuators on the back. These are motors with little metal rods that basically are glued to the back of the mirror, and they push and pull on that glass mirror all night long so that no matter where the telescope is pointed in elevation, it will have the very best shape to give the very best image quality at the instrument.
Right.
Now, as it turns out, back when the 4 meter was built in the 1970s, they didn't think about doing that with a mirror. This is a 1 foot thick piece of quartz glass.
Right.
You don't think you're going to move that thing around.
No.
But it turns out someone had the idea that you could put airbags underneath that, and the little bit of deformation you get behind that actually does much the same thing. So they were able to use what we learned from the WIN telescope to then make the 4 meter have better image quality in the same way.
Wow. And we are just running out of time here, and we just we haven't even scratched the surface. Oh my God, again.
It's just like, there's just too much to talk about.
There's
That's
just
it.
so much.
I mean, the world of
interesting
science
stuff.
and astronomy it's such an amazing field. You can never talk about all of it.
Yeah.
Well, and I do encourage, you guys have picked like a really difficult day to come up here. It's not usually snowy and slushy and slippery up here. I do encourage people to come up and visit Kitt Peak and learn about the exciting science that we're doing up here. We have a visitor center with tour guides that are happy to take you around to the telescopes.
And you're the largest collection of telescopes, you said.
Yes, so according to the Guinness Book, we are the largest collection of telescopes on any single mountain is up here at Kitt Peak in southern Arizona.
It's just amazing. And if they want to know more about Kitt Peak and about what you're doing and all of that.
So the first place to go is go to noao.edu, and that's the website for the observatory.
For the time being.
For the time being. Letters. Now, it will probably, there will be overlap in there. And,
it'll redirect,
but if you even do a Google search for Kitt Peak Visitor Center, you will get the information about what's going on at Kitt Peak. There's some wonderful image galleries. You can see what's going on up here. You can see press releases and all of that. If you want to get a little bit of a behind the scenes, my blog, davidleesummers.wordpress.com, I regularly do behind the scenes looks at what we're doing up here at the telescope.
That is fascinating. Thank you so much for being on the show with us. We've got to talk to you more about the science and your author.
It just means we have to come back.
Exactly. Well, I'm hoping to be back at CocoCon this year, so hopefully
we're just 2 hours away. Why have we never come down here before?
Exactly.
Who knows?
Keep talking about it.
We'll come in the spring and the summer.
There you go.
When it's warmer.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Pia Thrasher, filmmaker, actress, and artist, and you are listening to the Two Gay Geeks.
I put Pia in there because she just finished Things We Dig.
Yay.
Which is her film. Finally, after...
Fantastic.
Yeah, she was just so many struggles with that film. And so I put that in there. We have to talk to Pia about that now.
Absolutely.
We have to get in contact with her. And here's a few selected birthdays for February 3rd, 2020 through February 9th, 2020. February 3rd, Warwick Davis.
Who is actually, I believe, coming back. There's talk of a sequel to Willow.
Come back as
in Willow.
Oh, I thought he was going to come back as an Ewok.
No, God, no. We're past that. No, there's actually talk of a sequel to the movie Willow.
Oh, Willow 2.
I don't know what they're going to call it.
Willow 2. Anyway.
If you say so.
Yeah. And we have Blythe Danner. 1776, she was Martha Jefferson.
That's where she was.
Among other things. Norman Rockwell, author, painter, illustrator, classic home scenes and hometown or rural hometown, shall we say, scenes. From the heartland of America. And Gertrude Stein, novelist and partner of Alice B. Toklas. Nathan Lane, actor, out gay man. He was brilliant in The Birdcage.
He was fantastic.
And among many other parts that he's played. And Victor Buono.
King
Tut from Batman. Batman 64, yes.
Sadly, that's really all I can remember him for. I know I've seen him in other things, but that's what I really remember.
Yeah, I know. He always played these over-the-top characters. So, because he was actually a classically trained actor, but he always got these because he was such a funny man all the time.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah. Also, we have Jan-Mark Quisenbing, an artist friend of ours up in Janimal, yes. And then Scott Wildern, a Facebook friend of ours. February 4th, Rosa Parks. She's the first lady of the Civil Rights Movement. It was December 1st, 1951, in Montgomery, Alabama, the bus incident. She worked with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was a new minister at the time in Montgomery. They boycotted the buses in Montgomery, Alabama for 1 year, and it changed the tide of everything. She also... she worked in John Conyers' office as a receptionist, and it just a tremendous number of other things that she did. So it's a really great that she was in an episode of Doctor Who.
Her character was. Or her personality.
Her personality.
I mean, not the real Rosa Parks, no.
No. Well, she died in 2005. But anyway, We also have Alice Cooper
of Arizona.
He
Scottsdale, I believe.
Went to high school in Phoenix and still lives here. Supposedly the godfather of shock rock.
I would accept
larger
that.
than life character.
I would accept that. I know he was best friends with Glenn Campbell, and he puts on this Christmas show every year, which we have yet to go to, and we really should, because I've heard the greatest things about it. He gets a lot of other musicians and artists to show up at this. It's his Christmas pudding, and we really need to go to that sometime.
Yep. Charles Lindbergh. Aviator, first to fly nonstop across the Atlantic Ocean, and Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
A hero of yours.
He was a theologian during World War II. He spoke out against the Nazis from the very beginning in 1938 when they started to... Actually, 1933 when they started to really make waves.
Yeah,
but
sadly, he died just before the end of the war.
Exactly. He was arrested in 1943, continued his ministry in prison. They moved him right after the plot to kill Hitler. They moved him to Buchenwald and then to Flossenburg. Those are the two. Buchenwald was the original concentration camp, and Flossenburg. Both of them were notorious death camps. Flossenburg was way out in the hinterland, and the death camps.
I just get sick thinking about it.
He was hung just days before Flossenburg was liberated. So, but he was a great religious thinker, shall we say. He put into actions your faith into action, basically, was what he was all about. And then we have George Romero, who was responsible for the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, it's all his fault.
It's all his fault. Night of the Living Dead, among many other great films. And Clyde Tombaugh, discoverer of Pluto, which is still a planet in my estimation.
Well, I think it got reclassified.
Planet.
Well, I believe
it's a planet.
No, seriously, I think there was some talk about actually reclassifying it as a planet again.
Oh, cool.
Yay!
And Jack Evans, Facebook friend of ours. February 5th, we have Michael Sheen from Tron Legacy. He was Castor or Zeus.
But I think my favorite...
several other things.
Well, I think I'm going to like him best as David Frost and Frost Nixon.
Yep.
Oh, that was so good.
Yep. And then we have Christopher Guest, who was director. He was Mr. Mockumentary.
Yes.
He was This is Spinal Tap and Mighty Wind and Best in Show and what else? There was another one.
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't he also in The Princess Bride?
I may have been.
I think he was. I think he was the mean prince.
Yeah. And then we have H.R. Geiger.
Oh, my God.
The artwork
of that man.
Wow.
It's disturbing.
Yes. And the artwork that he did for Jodorowsky's Dune kind of pervades the look of Dune that David Lynch did.
There is some
Alien.
holdover. Oh, yeah. He had a definite influence on Alien.
And many other concept art pieces that he did.
He did the cover artwork for Brain Salad Surgery by Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Yep. February 6th, Bob Marley, influential reggae singer. Babe Ruth, baseball legend. What do you say about Babe Ruth? Rick Astley, singer. Never gonna give you up.
Never gonna hear that again.
Okay. And Zsa Zsa Gabor, one of the Gabor sisters, socialite actress, once married to Conrad Hilton.
Yes.
And then we have Rip Torn, actor. He was Men in Black. He was Zed in Men in Black.
Yes, he was.
And then we have Charlie Heaton, Stranger Things. He was the wannabe photographer that kept getting interrupted. It's like, dang it!
Stop coming into this dark room.
And Natalie Cole, wonderful singer, daughter of Nat King Cole.
Left us too soon.
Yep. Kathy Najimy.
Oh, I love her.
She usually plays the ditzy girl that saves the day.
Well, but
in essence.
One of my favorite roles is actually in Jeffrey. She's hilarious when she shows up at that, that revival type, psycho meeting that Sigourney Weaver is putting on.
Yeah, exactly.
And she walks back and goes, I can walk. And he says, you can always walk. Oh, shut up.
And then we have Thurl Ravenscroft.
Tony the
voice
Tiger.
actor, singer, yes. He was did a number of things for Disney. He was the singer of You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch.
Yes.
And he was the voice of Tony the Tiger. They're great.
As well as one of the the busts, the heads that sang in the Haunted Mansion.
Yes. And then we have good friend of ours, Lou DeLucy. Happy birthday, Lou. Christian Hodko and Dan Charette. February 7th, Charles Dickens, writer, gives us a day in the life of the Victorian England. When you talk about something that's Dickensian, it generally refers to poor social conditions and comically repulsive characters.
Yeah, that's about right.
Great Expectations, David Copperfield,
A Christmas Carol.
A Christmas
please.
Carol, yep. I read Great Expectations
Oh my
on my
God.
first iPhone, one of the small ones.
Tiny print.
Tiny.
I remember you were enjoying it too.
I love Great Expectations. I thought it's so depressing at the end, but it's like, really?
It's
Really?
so gay.
But
It
anyway.
really is.
And then good friend of ours from Finger Paint, Lee Massey. Happy birthday, Lee.
Oh my good heavens, we missed James Spader.
Yeah. Where's James? Oh, James Spader, yes. James Spader.
And
Daniel at Stargate.
right, of the movie.
Of the movie, yes. Oh, and where am I? Sinclair Lewis, yes. I missed all these people. Novelist, short story writer, and playwright. He was the first American to win the Nobel Prize in Literature.
Oh, good for him.
Sinclair Lewis, yes. February 8th, James Dean. Actor, heartthrob. He died way too soon.
Too soon.
We just heard that song.
By
the other
Dave
night.
David Essex, yes.
And then Johnny Williams.
Lost in Space.
Oh my gosh. Composer of many, many classical themes.
He probably
Time Tunnel, Lost in Space.
He's probably got a warehouse now just to put all the awards he has won.
Oh my God, I know. Just everything.
Yeah.
It's amazing the amount of work he has put out that is in popular culture today.
He redefined, in my opinion, he brought back the romantic soundtrack for movies when he did Star Wars.
Yep.
When Episode 4 came out in 77.
Yep.
Because that soundtrack, just everybody had to get it.
Yep.
And it all of a sudden we were back to these beautifully lush orchestral soundtracks, which we had kind of gotten away from for a number of years.
Right. And then, let's see, Jules Verne. He was a writer, sometimes called the father of science fiction,
Yes.
along with H.G. Wells, among
the two of them.
others. And he wrote Journey to the Center of the Earth.
20,000
and-
Leagues Under the Sea.
Oh, my gosh. Just all kinds of wonderful stuff. And Dmitry Mendeleev, he was the inventor of the periodic table.
Now I know who to blame.
Yes. February 9th, Michael B. Jordan.
The actor.
Actor, yes. And Tom Hiddleston.
The actor.
Yes, the actor.
Well, nice that we actually have two Marvel actors with
Exactly.
shared birthdays. I like that.
Exactly. And Carole King, singer,
Oh, my.
songwriter. Oh my gosh. What a talent.
Yes.
And Alban Berg, influential 20th century composer, used romantic lyricism and 12-tone techniques. Some of his operas were Lulu and Wozzeck and a couple of other things. So interesting pieces. It's not for everybody, but there's some interesting musical stuff in there. Carmen Miranda, Miss Fruit Basket Headwear.
Yes.
She was brilliant, yes. A brilliant Brazilian samba singer and dancer. She did 14 films. And I think last year I told the story about she was on the Jimmy Durante show, and she went to do the show and had a little hiccup during the show and went on with the show, had a little affair afterwards with, they had a little party for the cast
whatever.
and whatnot. She invited some people back to her apartment, and they had a little party, and she was found dead the next day.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, just partied till the last. Had a major heart attack. And then we have Brian Greene, physicist, educator. Elegant Universe is his.
Yes.
Oh my God, what an educator, and bringing particle physics and astrophysics.
Yeah, there's another documentary that I just saw. At least I spotted it. I don't know on which streaming service, but it's got something to do with Brian Greene in it. So I need to look for that.
I have to take a look at that. And then Joe Pesci.
You talking to me?
Yeah. And then we have Facebook friends Yasmin Durand, Raz Yalov, and good friend of mine that I've known forever, Ed McAllister. Happy birthday, Ed. And that's it for the birthdays this time. That's not right.
Hi, this is Holly. You're tuned in to Crypt on Radio. It's sci-fi for your Wi-Fi.
Go give a listen to our friends over at Crypt on Radio. You can find them at kryptonradio.com. They're a 24-hour geeky internet radio station.
I'm Daniel Radcliffe, and I believe that reaching out for help is the bravest thing a person can do. If you are struggling and need support, call the Trevor Lifeline at 1-866-488-7386. It's free and confidential, and trained counselors are there to listen 24/7 without judgment. To learn more about the Trevor Project's life-saving work for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or questioning young people, go to thetrevorproject.org.
We want to give a shout-out to Madame Askew's temporal entourage. Madame Askew and the Grand Arbiter are charming and cheeky tea mistress and mister, I guess. And she is a designer and teacher of steampunk fashion. She does lots of things. If you sign up for her Patreon program, lots of stuff that she turns out every week to teach you about steampunk fashion, how to make it, how to design it, how to do this, and teaches about tea and everything. She and the Grand Arbiter have live tea sessions each Friday night at 6:30 p.m. Pacific and Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific. Join them for tea and conversation, and consider supporting them on patreon.com and search for Madame Askew.
Well, we got some interesting feedback. This is a holdover from last week. We didn't get time for it, so we're going to it now. And this is regarding Ben's breakdown, The Mandalorian 3-episode thoughts on season 1. We are way past,
way
past 3 episodes. Yeah. And this also shows
we're done with it.
Well, this also shows how far back we are, the backlog we got on our feedback. And we got this from good friend Corey Nelson. She says, The Mandalorian captured me from the very start. The writing is well done. The story is intriguing from the start. There is the right balance of story versus the view, figuring out things as the plot unfolds. And she's right. That's a really good balance. And I think that's one of the reasons the series sells so well. Action scenes are compelling, even when sometimes cliche, like watching my favorite Western movie. That was the whole point. Because they really were going out for the lone gunslinger kind of approach on this.
Yeah.
The action is great. Yes, Baby Yoda is adorable, but Mando and his conflict with bounty hunting and doing the right thing in the end is compelling. And yes, absolutely. I think that, this is a fantastic show. It's a great exercise of character development versus drama.
Yep.
So, but we also have something else.
We also have a voicemail that was left for us.
Oh, my God.
So I'm going to play that right now.
Hi, Keith and Ben. It's your niece, Summer.
Summer!
I'm finally calling to leave you a voice review.
Yay!
Thank you so much for your shout-out about my YouTube channel on episode 258. I love listening to your podcast each week. I feel like I'm right there in Phoenix with you. I love you both so much, and I can't wait until your next visit. Bye.
Aww.
That was
awesome.
I didn't want to tell you ahead of time.
I'm glad.
I wanted to surprise you.
Well, it was a great surprise. I loved it. That was awesome.
She called the other day, and I actually answered.
Oh, shoot.
And then she hung up. She was confused. And then I sent her a text, and I said, sorry, I'll not answer.
I'll not answer
you
next
call
time.
back.
Yeah, please leave a message.
When I realized who it was.
Oh, that's hilarious.
She said, I was so confused.
And so were you. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Summer. That was wonderful. What a nice surprise.
Yeah, and you can leave a comment too. You can leave a voicemail if you want, or you can comment on our Facebook page or on tggeeks.com on each episode or each article that we have. You can comment on, like I said, the Facebook page, any article that we post on the Facebook page, on Twitter, on Instagram, or you can call and leave a voicemail like Summer did, and we'll play that on air, and you can be famous too. You can call 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. And as always, please play nice. As everybody knows, we are huge supporters of independent creators, whether it's filmmakers, comic book artists, writers, or others. Please, if you see them at a con or a get-together or something, please go chat them up and then tell other people about their stuff. Buy their stuff if you are so inclined, and please have cash for them. Please consider supporting independent creators. The Joshua Tree Feeding Program is a 501c3 nonprofit food pantry for the HIV/AIDS community in Maricopa and Pinal counties. They offer a place where the clients can select from a wide assortment of nutritional foods to take home. They set it up like a store so the clients can pick and choose the food they prefer, so it empowers them so that no food is wasted. They are an all-volunteer organization and could certainly use your monthly or single gift. You can give to them by going to jtfp.org. If you are trans or are questioning your gender identity, and if you are in crisis or are feeling isolated and need someone to talk to, or you know of someone in a similar situation, there is a special hotline just for you. The hotline is provided by translifeline.org and staffed by trained counselors who are transgender themselves. The hotline in the U.S. is 877-565-8860. In Canada, it is 877-330-6366. Or you can go to translifeline.org to learn about the important work they are doing. Please reach out for help. You are not alone.
Yeah, baby. They're like two gay geeks. They're together, you know. They're two gay guys and they're geeks. Is that okay?
I want to cut that short because we just have just a moment to talk about Porgy and Bess.
Yeah, we saw that yesterday.
Oh, my gosh.
Yesterday, as of this recording, live in HD from the Metropolitan Opera. Holy moly.
Wow. I have never seen Porgy and Bess.
I saw the musical. I saw the Broadway musical televised. This is the first time I actually saw the opera, and they're not exactly the same. A lot of the numbers are the same, but there's other things. There's no... in the Broadway play, obviously, there's no recitative. It's dialogue, vice versa here. So I was really impressed, though. I thought the cast was amazing.
Oh, my gosh. Eric Owens was great.
Despite having a cold.
As Porgy, and, oh, gosh, I can't remember what her
Angel
name.
Blue.
Angel Blue as Bess.
As Bess.
And then Denise Graves was in this, and it was an all-black cast, well, except for the four white
officers, for obvious reasons.
They were bit parts, but the whole ensemble was all people of color, and it was just absolutely incredible.
More than once, you and I were just totally choked up when we were watching.
It is absolutely
a great
story,
and that the one of the earlier numbers in the first half, My Man Is Gone, just nearly ruined me. It was so beautiful, and the soprano just knocked me dead. She was great.
Yes, if you have an opportunity to see it on the replay, please go do it. It is well worth it.
Mm-hmm. So this is the weekly wrap-up. These are things that we ran on website, tggeeks.com, this past week, and we'll have the links for each of these articles in the show notes for this episode at tggeeks.com, episode 259. So, starting with Sunday, January 26th, Dr. Zombie, A Monster Family, Physician number 85. On Monday the 27th, TG Geeks episode number 258. On Tuesday, the 28th, Lexicon returns for fourth year in Las Vegas. Media and entertainment convention focused on LGBTQ plus women, trans, and non-binary. On Wednesday, the 29th, American Horror Story, Edward Scissorhands, and Vestron video collection now available at Fright Rags. I need to check more of that stuff out. I love their stuff. Then on Thursday, January 30th, Ben's Breakdown. Arrow series finale hits a bullseye. Oh my God, I loved the way they ended that series. Please read my review. If you're a fan of Arrow, check my review out. And then on Friday the 31st, New Sushi number 96, Morsels of News from Japan and Beyond. And then on Saturday, February 1st, 2020 Slam Dance Film Festival announces winners.
And you can find all these things at tggeeks.com, as well as on our Facebook page. And please visit and comment. Where am I?
Have to give some shout outs. First to the Arkle Times Post-Dispatch News for republishing some of our content from time to time. It's put up by the human Arkle, Brian Weber, who just had a birthday. Yes. And you can find the Post-Dispatch News by finding him on Twitter. Do that by searching Arkle at ARKLE. And he also has the Shameless Cash Grab. He is into season 4, and episode 1 was Operation Endgame. You can find that by going to youtube.com/Arkle Studios, all one word.
Yes, youtube.com.
.clop. And then have to give some shout-outs to a couple of Facebook groups for also allowing us to post our episodes and relevant articles on their pages. First, to Gay Geeks After Hours. When I asked the moderators if I could share our stuff there, they said, yes, please share away. Their URL is facebook.com/groups/Gay Geeks After Hours, all one word. And then to The Gay Geek for also allowing us to share our stuff on their page. Their URL is facebook.com/groups/The Gay Geek, again, all one word. And special thanks to their marvelous moderator, Jeremiah Reeves.
Thank you, Jeremiah. And lastly, we can be found on Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, as well as where other fine podcasts can be found. Also, check us out on Krypton Radio, as you heard above, 3 a.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific on Tuesdays, and listen to their other content, their 24-hour geeky internet radio station. Please rate us and review us on iTunes, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can listen while you surf the internet on your mobile device or your laptop or your desktop or wherever it is. And please do that. I'm getting lost. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for this webcast episode. We're going to have several links on the page that you can click on and things that we talked about. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or website or Twitter or Instagram, or you can leave us voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. From TG Squared Studios, I'm Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. Please always be kind. Peace.
Cheers.